Welcome to the booth now, Kenny Lofton, as part of the 1995
Top of the
Indians
order, man.
reunion.
Let's go. The leadoff man.
There we go. Do something. There we go.
That's right. He started many a rally for the Indians during the 1990s, and many of them right here at this ballpark. And when you think of the 1995 team in particular, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Excitement. That's one of the words I can always put out there is excitement, because we had 1 through 9, anything can happen, and we had some guys who are pretty fun, have a good time, and it was exciting.
It was a team full of different personalities. We talked about that last night with Ossenbacher, and how about the music in the clubhouse? Were you in charge of that at one point in time to get it going?
Pretty much, I was in charge, but I only base hit the right.
That's all right.
But I pretty much only dealt with the music right before we go out on the field and right after the game. Other than that,
you had nothing to do.
I had nothing to do with it. So
okay.
Don't put it all on me. When people try to say it was all on me, I think I had 15 minutes before we went out on the field,
which was good.
And then after the game, who knows what time? The music shut off.
Yeah.
Until the media,
it was all night long.
Until they complained and said the media said we need to turn it off. So.
I can't tell you. No matter where I'm at, if I hear Montel Jordan, this is how we do it. I'm right back in the Indians clubhouse after a game in 1995. How did that come about?
Well, I was a friend of Montel's, and once the song came out and we started playing it, he found out we were playing it. He got really excited about it, and all of a sudden it just became this
sort of the unofficial theme song, huh?
Yeah, it was, and it was nice.
Joey Butler singled and scored in the first.
I go back to that team, and that team used to love to hit.
Throw by Gomes down to second.
He's in there.
Lindor did a nice job to try to swipe the tag.
That was a great jump. He stole it off the pitcher. That's what you have to do. You got to look at, because the thing about it, the catcher's going to do what they're going to do, but you have to look at the pitcher because he has the ball, and whatever move you can pick up off of him, you have an idea, to try to steal the base.
That was so much of your game right there.
Stealing bases now is coming back into the baseball more than what it was in the last few years. But, they like the home runs. Now you got to start creating runs in baseball. And
that's the thing about it is, the home runs are going down, so you got to find a way to get some runs in the game. Again, it's stolen bases always advancing to the next base, and that's what you try to do.
Well, Kenny, you played on teams that could bash with the best of them, but it never slowed you or deterred you from running.
Because, again, that was my game, and I think Hargrove knew exactly who I was and what I did, myself and Omar. And when that happened, he felt like no matter what, since our lineup was so strong, you had to face someone. So you take, they always say pick your poison, and that's what I felt we did. So by me stealing the base, if I get up and they try to walk Carlos or Albert, then you got Eddie and Tomei.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then Manny, and then Sandy. So pick your poison.
That's right.
And that's what happened. So they said, we'll just take our chances here and see what happens.
Well, you could not only hit the home runs like they did, you could manufacture runs too with you and Omar up at the top, because both of you would bunt. You would steal bases. You would create havoc. You'd get the other guys behind you fastballs, so those guys had to love you when you two got on base.
See, that's the thing about it. I guess people really don't realize when you say RBIs, it's run batted in. A guy can't hit a 3-run homer by himself.
Right.
Someone had to get on base, and I felt myself and Omar got on base a lot of time for these guys to get these 150 RBI games, a years. And so someone had to be on base.
Right.
And I felt like I scored, close to 100 runs, if not more, every year. So I had to be on base to do that.
Nobody out here in the third. Runner at second, 3-1 pitch coming to Butler.
I was thinking back in those days, Charlie Manuel, the hitting coach, this team loved to hit. They were the first ones to the ballpark, and you get into those cages before you come out onto the field and hit. Go through a normal day.
Well, I see now. First of all, it starts in spring training. Right now, I went to spring training. I guess I didn't go this year, but last year they had like two groups of hitting during spring training. We had 5.
Yeah.
So we have 5 20-minute groups.
And you know what I'd say? One group would be home runs to left, the other one would be home runs to center, the other one would be home runs to right. They did. They would go out, they would hit, and love to do it.
The thing about it also, the Indians, they hired 2 BP pitching coaches just to throw BP only.
Right.
So these guys used to throw 2 and 3 hours a day. That's all they did was through. So when we used to sit there, it was like, man, I'm tired. Charlie say, son, hit until your hands fall off.
That's right.
So
I never knew anybody that liked to hit as much as Charlie.
Yeah, then after that was doing batting practice. Then, like when the game started, we had batting practice. Then after the game, we were hitting.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was crazy, and it's like a country club now. They go out there, they kind of get their nails done, and they go in there and do certain things. Now they don't even hit. They hit their 1 or 2 groups and they're happy. If we only hit 2 groups, we was not happy.
Yeah,
we like Charlie. We need to hit more. And that's what we did.
I never told you those 2 batting practice guys that they hired, they no longer have arms. They were amputated.
I believe it as much as they threw. And, again, after a while, we just like to hit. We hit in the cage before we practiced, after we practiced. I think we swung the bat ourselves probably about 1,200 times a day.
Okay.
It was a lot.
I mean, I do remember it. But you were a very good defensive club as well, up the middle. You also have to spend time doing that. And defense takes as much time as offense does, too, if you want to become good at it, right?
It does. And I think that the easy part about defense is that you have a team. You have a team, and everyone kind of backs up everyone, and you understand, what your role is, what your position is. And the thing about me, I always thank Manny and Albert every time I put all my gold gloves.
Yeah.
Because, again, sometimes they were thinking about hitting, but I was thinking about defense.
Right.
It was kind of awesome for me because I enjoyed it.
Well, if they could cover from where they were standing to the line, it was fine because you could cover the rest in the alleys, right?
It was fine. So I covered a lot of ground, but I enjoyed it.
Oh, that's
because
the best.
I wanted
if you're
these
a
guys
center
to
fielder,
hit.
right?
Yeah, I wanted these guys to hit.
Corey Kluber having a tough time here. He's walked back-to-back hitters. I can't remember the last time that happened. And the bases are loaded with nobody out. Going to bring out Mickey Callaway. Let's go back. I remember Phil Garner saying, I believe it was in 1994, he said he had never seen a player develop from a raw talent to a dominant player as fast as you did. What enabled you to make that transition and develop that quickly? Was it work ethic? Was it the guys that were a part of the team that you played with?
Well, I think it was a total effort. I think it was the determination I had within myself and know exactly that I was very particular. I was very hard on myself. And I felt like I was very hard on myself, and I was nitpicking. I picked on everything that I did wrong and tried to figure out how do I make it better. And the funny thing about it, Phil Garner, he saw me when I was really raw with the Astros.
With the Astros,
so he saw me when I first stepped on the field. He was like,
coming off the basketball court.
Exactly. He was like, man, this guy going to need a lot of work. And once you tell me I can't do something,
that's all you need. That's the motivation you need.
I'm sorry. And I think some of these guys nowadays, it don't compute that same way. It doesn't, and it should. And I think if it starts to compute that way with a lot of guys now, things will change.
Well, the thing of it is, that's what I call inner drive, and you can't teach somebody to have they either have it or they don't. So
exactly.
to me, that's the way you were brought up. You were raised by your parents is to have that instilled in you, and that's what made you you.
But also, you got to also respect your elders. We had some guys, Eddie Murray, we had Orel Hoshaj, we had Dennis Martinez,
right.
we had Dave Winfield, and I also talked to Kirby Puckett. I talked to Paul Molitor. I talked to all those guys because I wanted to learn. I wanted to know as much as I can about the game because, again, those guys have done it. They perfected it.
Right.
And I wanted to know, what did you do? Because I want to be just as good. But guys nowadays, I go to spring training. I'm expecting these guys to be knocking down my door.
Right.
They don't.
Uh-huh.
I talked to Brantley a little bit. I talked to Bourne, but they don't. I'm here.
That's funny you say that because we said you respect the game and you want the knowledge of it, but you have to ask. But you also have to know the history of the game. What?
Off the glove of
get him at
Santana.
second.
Oh, throw to second and in time. So the Rays will get a run to make it 4-0. The Indians get an out on a weird play.
It was very weird. He went head first back into first base, and it went off the glove of Santana, and it looked like that Moss was going to throw it to home plate. He ended up firing it to second base.
See, he thought he caught it.
Yeah, he did. Thought he caught it. Didn't want to get doubled up, and then there's the crossfire, and they get him. So they may want to review that.
Well, Kevin Cash is out of the dugout looking back into the video, or looking back to the telephone to see what the video guy's telling them.
That was a weird play. Although, as a base runner, you're taught to freeze on a line drive.
Yeah.
You don't want to get doubled off. So that was actually good base running.
He did exactly what he's supposed to do. But also, here's the point about the game that confuses me. If you're saying that you want to speed up the game,
right,
and look what's going on right about now, we should put a clock on this start to finish.
It's interesting because Mike Everett's trying to get the batter to the plate, and now Kevin Cash finally waves it off.
Well, because they probably felt that it wasn't going to be overturned.
What's the use of a replay if you got the team looking in at the review,
right,
inside their dugout to see if yes or no? Why don't they have an umpire somewhere in the booth, sees it, say, that's it, he's out of safe, and let it go.
Well, we've talked about this a lot, and I think this is, like a lot of sports have gone through it, this is the first
phase
one. And, everything has they'll reevaluate it and probably go along, and down the road, that could be. Because
most of the time they usually have an extra umpire on site.
Yeah.
So why don't he be there on guy's site in a room, just
where
in
you
case,
can see the video,
and just in case. Okay, here's a play. Why don't you rewind it and check it out first, and then let us know, and that'll be the final offer.
Double play gets Kluber out of the inning.